Hey everybody, I know it's been a while since I've put a video out here. I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate your patience, but I've been preoccupied a little bit. I've actually been putting the final touches on editing my first book. It's going to be out on Amazon hopefully within a week or two of this getting out there. So if I'm able to put the link for the book in the description, that's going to be great. If I can't, I'm certainly going to put it on Facebook, so hopefully you can all see it. And it's been 2 years in the making, writing this book. It's been a great journey. I've got a lot of people to thank for it, but I'm not going to belabor that point anymore. I just wanted everybody to know where I've been for the last month. I've been focusing elsewhere, but I do want to get focused here on our next topic for this week's topic in anger, right? So, have you ever found yourself getting kind of disproportionately angry over something small? I think a lot of us have. It could be something like maybe somebody interrupted you in a conversation. It could be someone asked you something or asked you for something maybe that you've been exhausted all day and they want something from you and you're just not ready to entertain that. Just it really hypes you up really fast. Maybe a really minor comment somebody made just irritated you and normally it really wouldn't. And then you get really angry and you maybe you lash out, maybe you go internal to yourself and you just shut everything but everybody else out for the rest of the day or evening or whatever it is. But afterwards you kind of sit there thinking to yourself like, why did that affect me so much? Right? Why did that trigger something in me so vehement? A lot of people assume that anger is the problem. Honestly, though, anger is usually not the first emotion. Usually, it's the emotion that finally becomes loud enough to be noticed, right? So it's the anger that really gets noticed by everybody. Underneath anger is often something that's been sitting there for a long time. It's like there's a lot of different things that could be sitting there for a long time that creates anger and causes you to lash out. You know, exhaustion, hurt, disappointment, resentment, fear is a big one, just being afraid, feeling unseen, feeling overwhelmed, feeling emotionally overextended. And eventually, that pressure is going to build. One of the biggest misconceptions that people have about anger is that healthy people don't feel it, or that healthy people deal with it, very easily. And that's just not true. Healthy people absolutely feel anger. The difference is whether they understand what the anger is trying to communicate to them. So research published in the Journal of Personality that you'll see on the screen now, the research on the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, excuse me, found that people who regularly suppress emotions tend to experience more emotional stress, lower well-being, and less authentic relationships over time. And that's important to our discussion because many people don't process emotions, they just store them, right? They keep them kind of bottled up. They stay quiet when they're hurt. They avoid conflict in order to keep the peace. They say yes when they mean no, right? Or they say yes more often than they should, maybe, and they should say no more often. And they tolerate things that drain them emotionally. And eventually those emotions don't disappear, they overflow. Sometimes it's irritability, sometimes it's resentment, sometimes it's emotional shutdown, like we just said. People turn internally and they just shut the world out. Sometimes as anger that seems to come out of nowhere, right? They just blow up. That's where these emotions come from. But it didn't come out of nowhere. It's accumulated most times. I think a lot of people are raised to believe that anger itself is bad. And maybe they've heard things like calm down, stop overreacting, don't be disrespectful, good people don't get angry, which is not very common. Like most people know that even good people get angry, but still. So instead of learning how to understand anger, they learned how to suppress it. But suppressed anger doesn't disappear, it usually becomes resentment. And resentment is often a boundary that when it's ignored, or yeah, is a boundary that's ignored too long, is where resentment comes from. The American Psychological Association reports that the overwhelming majority of adults experience stress levels that impact them both mentally and emotionally, including irritability, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. And honestly, I think many people underestimate how much emotional overload contributes to anger. Sometimes the anger isn't about the moment itself, it's about the accumulation of stress, disappointment, self sacrifice, emotional exhaustion, like we've said a couple times already. And eventually the nervous system starts to signal that, hey, something isn't sustainable anymore. And that's why I think anger can sometimes function like an emotional alarm system, which can be a good thing. It's not something necessarily meant for you to control or to control you, but it's something that's meant to get your attention. Now, that doesn't mean that all anger is healthy. There's a difference between anger and aggression. Healthy anger informs, unhealthy anger attacks. Healthy anger reveals, unhealthy anger will punish. Healthy anger says things like something matters here, something is going on here. Unhealthy anger says, I want you to hurt because I'm hurting. And those are very different things. Relationship research, has consistently shown that people who struggle with setting healthy interpersonal boundaries tend to experience significantly higher levels of resentment and emotional exhaustion that can certainly lead to anger. Every time you ignore your own limits, every time you silence your own needs, every time you overcompensate to keep others comfortable, part of you is feeling abandoned, which can very easily and eventually your anger will notice that. Which is an interesting way of putting it. Your anger notices it. You don't become angry. Anger lets you know something's going on. I think one of the most powerful questions we can ask ourselves is this: what is my anger trying to protect right now? Maybe it's trying to protect your energy, your self-respect, your emotional safety, your time, your need for rest, your need to feel valued, your need to finally stop tolerating something that's been hurting you. That doesn't mean every bit of anger or every angry reaction is justified, but it does mean that emotion deserves curiosity instead of immediate shame. Because people who constantly judge or suppress anger often don't become peaceful. They become emotionally exhausted or emotionally numb or quietly resentful, which will only lead to more anger. And honestly, some of the angriest people are actually people who spent years trying not to be angry. So if anger has been showing up more lately, instead of immediately asking, how do I stop feeling this way? How do I stop feeling angry? Maybe switch it a little bit and think of the different question, which could be, what has gone unheard in me for too long? Maybe the answer is rest, honesty, boundaries, grief that maybe hasn't been addressed correctly, support, space, change. These are all things that maybe have gone unheard with me too long. It's causing some anger. Anger is not always destruction. Sometimes it's the part of you that finally realizes something has gone on too long. So this week, instead of immediately reacting to anger, try observing it. Notice when it appears, what triggered it, what emotions may exist underneath it. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling angry about, or what is really driving this anger? And ask yourself, what would honoring this emotion responsibly look like? Not explosive reactions, not silent resentment, honest awareness. Because anger becomes destructive when it's ignored, suppressed, or weaponized, not simply because it exists. Anger in and of itself is not always a bad thing. And sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is finally listen to what your anger has been trying to tell you all along. If this resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone that you think might need it. By now, you should see the way to contact me if you have ideas for blog posts posts you want to hear about, or coaching ideas, or if you just want to contact me to ask for more information. And always, as always, you guys take care of yourselves and have as good a day as you can. All right.